when you're exposed to the opposite sex hormones, a man taking high doses of estrogen, for females taking high doses of testosterone, that creates the potential for cardiac problems. Between 2019 and 2023, it was a $120 million industry to transition children. That was just up until 2 years ago.
Well, if you're enjoying Table Talk, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and remember to click that notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest posts.
Content warning. This segment includes discussions of sensitive topics like abuse and adult material. Viewer discretion advised.
Well, you know, as the world blurs the lines between good and evil, God is calling believers to stand firm in his truth. And today's guest reveals why she has chosen to expose the true risk of transitional surgeries and the danger of uninformed medical consent. But before we get to that, joining me around the table is April Simons. This is a heavy subject, but it's important that we talk about this. And I mean, this may be a subject that's not appropriate for small children to watch.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't even understand what happens when somebody, say, is born a male and wants to get the surgery to become a female. They don't understand the complexities or how dangerous that is.
And I myself will learn a lot here because we don't talk about it. And so it's great we're getting this information today.
Yep, Kendra, welcome.
Oh, yeah. I just think about, you know, I got an email the other day from my 13-year-old. They're going to talk about sex and education and abstinence and all of that. And do they want to do that at school, or would we rather do that? Well, obviously we wanted to do that. But my point to that is saying they're so young. They don't understand what's happening. They're still learning their body. They're still figuring things out. And today, younger and younger children are making this decision with the help of adults.
Or doctors are making, or parents
them.
making the decision here. We're going to talk about that, and we have a professional to talk about it. Rachel, I think that's important.
Yeah, you know, it is important, and it's actually just truly wild to me that we're even having to do a show on this.
It is,
like, how is this even something that's happening in our country? And why aren't more moms standing up for our babies and our children and our kids?
For sure. Cindy Murdoch, I know 20 years ago, you and I could have never imagined we'd be sitting here talking about this.
I never knew there was such a thing as transitioning from one sex to another. But I think information hopefully can, like parents getting this kind of information, they'll realize how horrible this would be to allow their child to go through something so tragic.
Well, we're so excited to have Dr. Melanie Kreitz-Backert with us. So welcome to the table.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's so good to have you here. And I actually am meeting you through our dear friend, Dr. Simone Gold. And she said, you have to meet Melanie. What she's going to share is so very important because, you know, while many surgeons support sex change surgeries, Dr. Melanie Kreitz-Backert has chosen a different path. And today she explains why she refuses to perform transitional procedures, and she's going to reveal their hidden dangers. So you are what we call a pelvic reconstructionist, right?
Correct.
And so there's not a lot of you that know how to do this surgery, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you know exactly what's going on when these surgeries happen. What are some of the most alarming things that you can share with our audience that happens that people just don't know and understand?
Well, that speaks to the point of informed consent or lack thereof. And surgeons are supposed to go over the risks and benefits of surgery with patients. That's part of the legalities. That's part of the oath of do no harm. And that is severely lacking. And so lots of times what happens are these patients are just given a handout of some of the complications of surgeries without the surgeon actually going over these complications with them. And when you choose to undergo a surgery such as this, there are a multitude of complications. It's not all sunshine and roses after the surgery. And doctors are severely. I am just appalled at my colleagues and my profession because we are just radically failing these patients by not giving them the true picture of what's going on, and especially with children.
So psychiatrists and what kind of doctors are saying, yeah, this is what you need to do without really understanding the complexities associated with it? What other doctors do you hear say, oh yeah, this is what you should do?
Yeah, so by the time they get to surgery, we're kind of the last step. They've already generally gone through their primary care provider or the endocrinologist, or as for children, pediatricians.
But these are not surgeons.
Correct.
These are not pelvic reconstructionists that
Correct.
understand how complex the male and the female pelvic area is.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right?
and your purpose for being that type of surgeon was and is to help like women that have a fallen bladder, or you're helping to reconstruct in a good way.
Correct.
To make the body like it's supposed to function.
Correct. And that's true reconstruction. Reconstruction is taking a tissue that has failed and restoring it back to what it could be, not taking a perfectly healthy tissue organ, deconstructing it, and then fashioning something artificial.
You had someone that came to your practice and that was transitioning, that had a lot of issues going on. And tell me, what were your thoughts and what was going on with that particular patient?
So the patient was transitioning from a woman to a man and was being given high doses of testosterone.
What does that do, by the way?
So high doses of testosterone will, when we think of males that go through puberty, their voice deepens. They start growing facial hair. Of course, the genitals start enlarging and maturing, as they should. The same thing was happening with this woman who was transitioning to a man. Voice was very deep. Facial hair was very apparent. Muscle mass increases, and notably for women transitioning to male, the clitoris will enlarge. And that's what high doses of testosterone do to women.
And so she came to you, because I'm sorry, I would always call you what you're born. Okay?
Yes, correct. Your biological sex.
So
correct.
she came to you and she was having what kind of issue?
Was referred to me for chronic pelvic pain.
So chronic pelvic pain.
Correct.
And so you begin to look at her case and you figured out.
I went through all of the normal questioning and what's going on, and then we finally get to the point of when is this happening? Well, it's happening as soon as she awakens in the morning, and it lasts for a couple of hours, and then it goes away. And actually what was happening was a normal physiological process that happens to men in the mornings in the case of morning erections. And what was so appalling to me about this is I had to explain, this is what's happening to the patient. This was an adult patient, and this information was not given to the patient. It was not explained that these sorts of things would start happening. Your body would start producing sensations and things as men would experience. They understand, they think of the facial hair and the voice deepening. That's the most common that they expect. But the patient was not expecting this sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's painful, chronic pain.
It was painful to the patient until the patient understood what was going on. Once that happened, and we discussed that this is what is supposed to happen to a man. The patient, understood and had more information to be able to process what was happening, new things that were happening to the body. But this was an adult patient. That's what's so appalling to me is...
So you think about the children.
The children.
Like,
how do you explain this to a kid?
How young are they transitioning children that you hear about?
Oh my goodness. Anywhere from 5, 6, 7 years old. All a child has to do is say, well, I think I feel like a boy, or have no idea
the pain that they're about to endure.
Correct.
Like, let's just forget about the surgery for a minute. Like, women having their breasts cut off, or men that are transitioning to women having body parts cut off. the hormones themselves, it's so contrary to the way God created us.
Absolutely.
So what does it do, I mean, long term for a man to take female hormones at big doses and for women to take male hormones at big doses long term, because you can never stop
Correct.
that. But what does that do to the body? I mean, you as a surgeon understanding that.
So things surgically, speaking non-surgically, when you're exposed to the opposite sex hormones, a man taking high doses of estrogen, they are at risk for cardiac disease. They're at risk for osteoporosis. We've seen increased dementia for females taking high doses of testosterone. There's a reason why when we supplement testosterone for men having low testosterone, that we monitor their blood work, because that creates the potential for cardiac problems. So for females exposed to high doses of testosterone, same sorts of things: stroke, heart disease, blood clots.
Not to mention mentally.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like, to me, that is probably the most important component that we could talk about, because it's what's going on up here and the deception involved with it.
Correct.
That is so sad, because now we're seeing scores of young people
Correct.
that had the surgery 9, 10, 11, and they get into their teen years or early 20s, and they look at the doctor and say, why did you allow this? And I want to go back. And you can't go back.
You can't. You can restore to a certain extent, but you can never restore tissue. Once that healthy tissue has been deconstructed and then refashioned, you can deconstruct it again and refashion what was supposed to have been there, but it will never function normally, with complications of things such as fistulas and horrendous scar tissue, nerve damage. You will never have a healthy, normal, fulfilling, intimate relationship with your partner.
And you can take care of the hormones and get them off the bad hormones, right?
No, once a child, especially a child, and that's the one thing that I want to, really drive home here for children, this is irreversible.
Wow.
This big pharma, they are creating patients for life. Very savvy. They know what they're doing.
Why is it not reversible in kids?
Because once you start hormonal manipulation on little bodies that are just starting to develop, they need their normal hormones. If a little girl needs their normal amount of estrogen for the ovaries and for the uterus to develop, if you are halting that process and then bombarding with high doses of testosterone, you're causing atrophy of those ovaries, which will never regain function.
Wow. So they can never have children.
They likely will not be able to,
If they were to reverse
biologically have their own children. And the reverse for a male. The testicles will atrophy. They will stop producing sperm. So a child simply cannot, there is no identifiable way to hit home, and drive home to these children, because they're not old enough. They don't have the life experience. They don't have wisdom to know what these decisions are that they're making and the ramifications in their adult life. And that's what's so alarming and appalling to me with my profession, and how my profession has failed the population.
Have you received a lot of pushback for your bold stance, especially
I'm
being
not popular
in the North, where so much of this is, very, promoted?
Yeah, I am not popular among those.
But your voice,
circles.
You are championing these children and these teenagers, and your voice, you want to speak out because you genuinely want to see people healed. And you don't want to see the
Correct
destruction that you've seen as a result of this. I think it's really important.
I'm interested to know, since you said they don't give the side effects of what the surgeries do the parents, are they informed of the side effects, the long-term side effects for these kids?
Everything is glossed over. I will tell you, generally, the parents are so far gone And they are so entrenched in thinking that they're doing the proper thing for their children, whether that is the influence of the school system or whether that's the influence of a therapist. The parents are generally so entrenched that they don't understand. They just think that they are doing what's best for their children.
My brother's a surgeon, and I know you have to give, just like you said, you have to give, this is what could happen. And I'm shocked that they're just not giving it. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So how many stories are you hearing where people go and they have the surgery, and then they come back and they're having complications, and now they're looking at a lifelong of treatments, of trying to deal with complications from having this surgery and what their life looks like now?
There are a large number. And in fact, there's a law firm actually locally here in Dallas, Campbell, Miller and Payne, and they are a group of God-fearing men who basically left their corporate jobs because they felt led by the Holy Spirit. And this is all that they do. Wow. They are covered up in litigation. In fact, I have spoken with them extensively to potentially be an expert witness for them because surgeons aren't speaking out, but they are covered up in litigation for detransitioners. That's all they do. So
kids are rising up and saying, why didn't you tell me?
Correct.
That this would change my life forever.
Correct.
Yeah. Why is it so rare that surgeons won't take a stand against this kind of surgery?
Follow the money. Oh. And I say that wholeheartedly. I was a private practice doctor, so I was not salaried. Basically, when you're a private practice surgeon, the more work you do, the more you get paid, of course. And a lot of these doctors, I fully believe it is just corporate greed, and it is just the almighty dollar. I mean, you know, the love of money is the root of all evil, and these surgeries are incredibly lucrative. When a patient starts down this road, they are a patient for life.
Wow.
In fact,
how much does it cost? I mean,
$120 million. I have my my references right here. You know that between 2019 and 2023. It was a $120 million industry to transition children. And that was just up until 2 years ago. Now the explosion that we've seen, heaven only knows what we're going to see, but it is a multi-million-dollar industry. As I said, the surgeries are incredibly lucrative. In fact, the director of the department at Vanderbilt University was caught on camera talking about how much money the transgender program at Vanderbilt University was garnering from these surgeries.
Wow, wow. Well, I think we have a video of Chloe Cole, who actually went through the transition process and now is coming out saying it was the biggest mistake of her life. Let's listen to what she has to say.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. I had a double mastectomy at 15. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now, but my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My childhood was ruined, along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
I mean, this is barbaric. I mean, I can't even believe we're talking about this. It just makes no sense when, how many Chloes are there out there like that, that have parents and doctors have made the decision, 12 years old.
I know.
What do you know when you're 12 years old?
Nothing.
And you're talking about adults that don't even have the correct information.
Correct.
How much is spent on a person who transitions, the surgeries, and the continued care, are you saying
Per person.
how much per person? About how much?
It's generally about $250,000 a year per person.
Wow. And then the continued care.
And that's just pharmacotherapy and follow-ups. You add in surgeries if they've had surgeries, if there are complications of those surgeries, or if something happens later on that you need to go back and revise.
But it's not just the sexual pain that they experience. I mean, she was talking about her joints.
Correct.
Yeah. Her back popping.
From the testosterone.
I'm sorry, I get emotional because God created your body in such a wonderful way to function the way He designed it. And so when you take it out of that and try to make it something it's not supposed to be, the body is retaliating against itself. So what are some of the other symptoms or the other type of pain that people will experience from having this kind of surgery?
Yep, so the joint pain is very common. The chronic pelvic pain that we talked about, the pain after undergoing those surgeries, especially little kids. When a baby's body, and I say a baby because they're babies to me.
Yeah.
When their body is developing, you can't take a developing body and influence it the other way and not expect bad things to happen.
Yeah. Will they be on hormones for the rest of their life?
They will.
So then, prescription-wise, pharmaceuticals are making a fortune.
That's correct. That's why I said the pharmaceutical industry is very, very savvy.
What made
about
you
this.
so passionate to join this fight, especially when there's so much that you could lose?
Well, I didn't get the opportunity to be a mother myself. And growing up in church, I was always involved in the youth programs. And my daddy, who passed away in 2008, didn't get the opportunity to be a grandfather. And he just loved children. And he would always tell me, you gotta take care of the little fellers. And he always told me, that children are our legacy. And God put me in this position. I wasn't going to be a surgeon. I was going into internal medicine. I did not want to be a surgeon. Lord knows I didn't want to be a pelvic reconstructive surgeon, but all of the doors just kept opening. And I was forced to make decisions in my medical training career. I was forced to make decisions very quickly. And when I was approached about doing a pelvic reconstructive fellowship, my husband, who I was dating at the time, and who has put up with more, God love him, has put up with more headaches with my career than he deserves. But he said, you know what, if there's ever going to be a doubt in your mind and you're ever going to wonder what might have been, I want you to do this fellowship, even though it meant 2 more years apart in a long-distance relationship. So I went ahead and did the fellowship. Well, now I understand why I was meant to be here. It was to take care of the little fellers.
Yeah.
And it was because I'm not going to have a biological legacy. I want to be known as the mother of America's children.
That's so good. That's so good. So gender dysphoria, that's a condition psychologically. It doesn't mean that you should go and have a transitioning, life-changing surgery, especially for children, teenagers, preteens, who aren't old enough to make a decision now that so many are now coming forward and saying it was a mistake. I mean, all you have to do is just go to Instagram or YouTube and hear some of these stories and hear some of these individuals say that.
So they just need mental health, right, to help them process?
Yeah, what would you say to a parent that's watching that has a child that's saying this and everyone is saying they need to do this? What would you say to them?
I would quote them the study from 2018 that shows that most children, upwards of 80% of children, desist naturally with puberty. So what these children and what your children are experiencing is nothing new. We've been experiencing this since the beginning of time. All of us have. We've all had to go through the horrors of adolescence and trying to figure out our bodies, and everything's confusing. take them to church, because I am convinced we don't have a gender dysphoria problem. We've got a people don't know Jesus problem.
Yes, that's right. That's good. so good. That's so good.
It's wild. There's a lot of people that are watching that I feel like are going to be inspired by your bold stance,
Yes.
moms and dads and grandparents. Is there something that they can do to join this fight and to help maybe change this, through
Trajectory.
legislation, or what can people do?
Yeah, information,
Absolutely.
like to have real information.
Yes, absolutely. So there are a number of resources. ConservativeCounselors.com, Association for Mental Health Professionals.org. These are for mental health resources. DoNoHarmMedicine.org for resources in how to combat these sorts of things. Dr. Miriam Grossman has a wonderful book out called Lost in Transnation that is a wonderful resource for parents to understand the background of this and how to speak with their children. There is also a book out by Pamela Yeager Garfield. I believe I got that right. She is a licensed social worker that actually was working out in the fields and wrote this book in how to deal with school boards and your social circumstances.
Right, because you have some schools that are leaving
Think
the
they know
parents
better than the
out.
parents?
Yeah, they
Yes.
know. Yeah. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for sharing. And, I think at the end of the day, what all of us would say here at the table is that regardless of what the public arena is saying, that we have to do what we feel is pleasing in the sight of the Lord and what lines up with the Word of God. And we know that He created male and female. And so it's important to keep that stand, and it bypasses any other political opinion that's out there, even though it may not be popular.
Correct.
We're going to try to do the right thing and continue to do the right thing. I know you are too. We are out of time. I want you to remember that no one is beyond saving, no matter what you may have done in the past. Even those that are watching right now that you may have transitioned, I just want to tell you there's always hope. Yes. I've interviewed Walt Heyer, who transitioned from, like in the 80s from a male to a female back to a male, and is doing great, got married, and now God's using him to help in this area, and He can do that for you. So don't think that your life is over, or that God can't use you, or He can't bring peace in your situation, because He can. Jesus is always ready and waiting to redeem all of us today. And all we have to do is just call on His name and say Jesus, and He'll show up just like that. And He'll meet you right where you are. So if you don't know Him today, that is the most important thing we can share with you. And just do that and allow Him to come in and do something that only He can do in your life. Well, I want to thank Dr. Melanie Kreitz-Backert for joining us today. For more information on the documentary, What is a Doctor?, you can visit aflds.org, and that's America's Frontline Doctors. As always, make sure to follow us on all social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel for full episodes, exclusive content. Let us know how Table Talk is touching your life. We love hearing from you. And of course, you can also listen to the Joni Table Talk podcast, available now on all major platforms. I know this has been it's a heavy topic, but I'm just telling you, these are topics that the church needs to address. And we need to talk about what's going on, what's happening, and how we are damaging our young people, our children. And we need to be a clear and concise voice to speak truth. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I hope you'll take this information, share it with others. And you never know, the Lord may use you to help someone to bring truth and clarity in a situation. We'll see you next time.